And now we get to the juicy stuff. Week 7 in the NFL. Now, there's a lot of stories today mingled with these games, and I'm going to touch on obviously the new Philadelphia Eagle, Kevin Byard. Is there issues going on with Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson? Bill Belichick signing a contract extension with the New England Patriots. I'm going to get to all of those stories intertwined here within these games. Without further ado, this is my Week 7, 2023 NFL recap. We went 8-5 in the money line. I'll tell you that right now. I went 69-37 now on the year. The games I missed this week were the Raiders and the Bears. How about Tyson Bagent? I did pick Tampa over Atlanta. Obviously, that was wrong. I had Buffalo over New England. I had Washington over the Giants. And then I also had San Francisco over Minnesota last night. We only went 2 for 5 in best bets. I did hit Baltimore. They easily covered the free, obviously, against Detroit. And then I also barely hit Seattle at -7.5 against Arizona. Obviously missed out on Buffalo, the 8.5 against New England, Vegas against Chicago, and then San Francisco against the Vikings. They were favored by 6.5 going into last night's game. So again, 2 for 5 in best bets on the week. That put me at 21-35 on the year. But let's start off with a game that feels like forever ago with everything that happened over the past week. Jaguars Saints. Derek Carr seemingly had a meltdown during the game because the Saints offense is as boring as paint. Derek Carr does not look good in a Saints uniform. I said it once again going into the year. I feel like I have to repeat myself every week on this topic. When it comes to the NFC South, a lot of people thought the Saints were the favorite in that division. I did not think so because even though I like the talent, you didn't know the situation with Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas cannot stay healthy. And I did not think that Derek Carr was going to be able to score a ton of points with that Saints offense. I think the Saints essentially need to reboot. With that being said, Jacksonville tried to come off the game. Now the line here was 2.5, and I said, when I made my predictions on Thursday, if I was sure Trevor Lawrence was going to play, I would have taken Jacksonville as a best bet plus the points, even though they almost blew the game. Bad turnovers by the Jags, quick striking ability by the Saints is what really made that game close. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags offense, though, they did look sharp. It reminds me a lot of the Philadelphia Eagles, which is funny because obviously Doug Peterson used to coach there in Philadelphia. But the Jags, I mean, they don't punt a lot. They move move the ball down the field, yet they turn the ball over. And so they scored 31 points. But at some points you thought, obviously in that moment, Jacksonville was going to be able to score 50 at points. At least I thought that. It did not come to fruition. Nonetheless, the Jaguars get a big victory. How about this game? Deshaun Watson goes down early in the first quarter after a bad interception. He almost had 2 bad interceptions early. Then you have the situation where obviously Myles Garrett jumps outside. Gardner Minshew, who I said you have no idea what you're going to get from Gardner Minshew week to week. He had a bad week against Jacksonville. Expect him to bounce back against the Browns. He did. Now he gets the Saints this week. He'll probably have a bad week because that's what Gardner Minshew does. But Minshew obviously hits Josh Downs wide open on the sort of slant wheel route combo. Denzel Ward did not follow the zone coverage. Up the seam, we got a 7-7 ball game. And from that point on, this game was just strange. And Browns fans, and listen, you guys know I'm from Cleveland. The Browns are my hometown team. I want to make 2 points. Number one is I said in the offseason, I thought the best Browns addition they made on the whole team was adding defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. I said it was the best hire Kevin Stefanski could make. I said that Myles Garrett was going to have a career year. And a lot of people like Myles Garrett. A lot of people think Myles Garrett is the best pass rusher in the NFL. I never thought that. I never thought that Myles Garrett, to be honest with you, was even in the top 5. And the reason why I feel that is because he would get his sort of 1 sack per game, and that was it. He really would not disrupt the game. He wouldn't make an impact on the game. But I'll tell you what, he had a couple key sacks. He forced a fumble in the end zone, made some big key fourth down plays, and even blocked a field goal. Myles Garrett is having a career year. I also said the Browns would not miss Nick Chubb that much and they'd be able to still run the football, and I was proven right. Obviously, the big Jerome Ford run to start the game. Kareem Hunt getting involved there with a Pierre Strong, who they got from New England in the preseason, getting a little bit of a run, and rotating those backs don't seem to be a huge issue as long as the Browns offensive line now led by that massive um right tackle Jones from Ohio State. He's been playing well under the tutelage of Bill Callahan. The Browns offense to me looks pretty good, except when you get to the play calling of Kevin Stefanski. I thought late in the game was a train wreck from an officiating standpoint. PJ Walker, who obviously came in for Deshaun Watson, who I will get to that in a second, made a really bad decision on fourth down, got a fumble. Indianapolis picked it up. The Colts should have won the game at that point. I believe the score was 38-33. But in that moment, the league decided to throw illegal contact when it was not illegal contact. Amari Cooper was going for a route, basically stiff armed the Indianapolis defender, which they say he grabbed him. He didn't really grab him. He tried touching him, apparently. And I talked about this last week when I talked about NFL officiating. They're calling illegal contact and defensive holding way too much. But at this point, there's, I don't know, 30 seconds maybe left in the game. The Browns are at their own 1 yard line. They have 4 plays to get in the end zone with no timeouts. Stefanski should have ran the ball on first down. I know they didn't have a timeout, but you can still run a fullback dive or a QB sneak. Make sure you're going forward. Don't lose yardage on first down. Come up, clock the ball. You have 2 more chances to run the ball. Instead, they throw 3 dangerous passes on first, second, and third and goal. Turn it around, give it to Kareem Hunt, who barely squeaks in the end zone. Browns were able to pull out the victory. And look, regardless if you got a little help from the officiating, the victory is all that matters. And the Browns are 4-2 on the season. But the fact that Deshaun Watson was cleared from concussion protocol and did not come back in. Kevin Stefanski said he was protecting the player. Obviously, we all saw what happened last year with Tua and the Dolphins down in Miami. I've always made this argument. If a doctor clears you to play, I don't care what you feel like in your gut. I trust the science. I trust the doctor. If the doctor tells you that, hey, you're not going to be at any more risk if you come in and play, because that's essentially what he's saying, I would have played Deshaun Watson. You paid Deshaun Watson all that money to be your franchise quarterback. Deshaun Watson had his helmet in his hand, ready to go back in the game. It sounded like Kevin Stefanski told him no. And that tells me that Stefanski sees all that he needs to see. And that is either Deshaun Watson is not right or that Deshaun Watson is not the right fit for his scheme. And Watson and Stefanski are at odds. The whole injury issue with the Deshaun Watson thing to me is a little bit perplexing because of the fact that, Stefanski said he thought Watson was going to be able to go against Baltimore. Deshaun Watson comes up for warmth. He does not go. They do not let him talk with the media during the bye week or during the San Francisco week. And then after the Indianapolis game, Stefanski tells reporters Watson's going to go against Seattle. Deshaun Watson says he doesn't know if he's going to go. We'll see. So it's very interesting right now. I think there's more shaky ground for the Browns at the quarterback position than maybe most people think. For Indianapolis, again, without Anthony Richardson, we know how brilliant Shane Steichen is. We know Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss is going to help out that running game. It's just, can you get consistent play to Gardner Minshew? They did this week. They were still in the ball game. They just could not finish. And again, part of that was because of officiating. They finally gave the Browns a break, which according to Cleveland fans, they haven't gotten a break in 20 years, which give me a break. Every team gets officiating breaks every week, week in and week out, and every team gets bad breaks week in and week out. It's about how you adjust to the officiating in that game. Baltimore did not need officiating. They crushed Detroit 38-6. And it was still warm out, so we still need to see Jared Goff in below, 50-degree weather. Obviously, California kid. He's played outdoors. Yes, we know he's very comfortable in Detroit. But the fact of the matter is, oh, the Lions, they beat the Chiefs opening night. Yeah, they did it without the Chiefs' two best players, Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. They also lost to Seattle the next week at home. And the Lions defense, once again, they're playing some pretty bad quarterbacks over the past few weeks, got exposed by a very dangerous quarterback, Lamar Jackson. This game does not change my opinion on the Detroit Lions. I said they were the third best team in the NFC. I still believe that. I think there's still another wide receiver. I think there's still another pass rusher. I think there's still another DB away. I think they need to ensure that in the draft and in free agency. I think they're a year away. I think they can win a weak division with the NFC North, and I think that they can win a playoff game, but I think that that is their ceiling. As for the Ravens, I've been saying all year, if it wasn't for the drops of these Ravens receivers, which we are now seeing the potential of Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers and Bateman to go along with Mark Andrews, they should have easily beaten Pittsburgh, and they could have beat Indianapolis as well. They could easily be undefeated. They have Arizona this week. They should take care of business, and we know how the Ravens start seasons. They start out very strong. The question is, are they going to be able to finish the season? Is Lamar Jackson going to be able to maintain being healthy for a 17-game season? Tyson Bagent. I mean, this goes back to my no tape theory that if you guys have been watching me for a couple of years, Bears defeat the Raiders 30-12. My thought is in the NFL, when you have a backup quarterback, and it's the same reason why Baker Mayfield came off the street last year with the Rams and beat the Raiders, is NFL coaches are so in tune with watching tape. They spend probably 100 hours a week, no joke, 20 hours a day, 5 days a week, watching tape. And so when they don't see anything on tape, they don't know how to adjust. Now, this week, I don't know the Bears, they play the Chargers, Brandon Staley, defensive coach. If Tyson Bagent lights up Brandon Staley, I know that they are at home. Brandon Staley might as well just go in and put up his house for sale. If Tyson Bagent, lights up Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and that Chargers secondary. But we know the Raiders are bad. We know the Raiders aren't a great defensive team. Even with Brian Hoyer, I thought they could run the ball with Josh Jacobs against a bad Bears secondary. Davante Adams have a good bounce back game. Davante Adams is not happy with his role with the Raiders. The Raiders are unwilling to trade him, which I get it if they had a quarterback. The issue is they don't have a quarterback, and they're not going to be bad enough. They're going to win, 5 or 6 or 7 games and not be in that top position. The Raiders are in a weird, interesting position where I like some of their roster. I like their receiving core. I like their pass rush. Don't like a ton else about their roster, but yet they have a bridge quarterback that's going to win you games. And for the Bears, Tyson Bagent looked more comfortable in this system than Justin Fields ever did. I mean, who knows? Again, the real test will be against the Chargers this coming week. It was just one of those games. Speaking of one of those games, this was a classic Falcons-Bucs game. This was classic Desmond Ridder, who is a under-average quarterback, and Arthur Smith, who every fantasy manager in the world that has Bijan Robinson, myself included, is ticked off at him because he didn't disclose the fact that Bijan Robinson had an illness, and he's using Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson and, Jonnu Smith and Wee Smith and all these other tight ends. They're using, Drake London and Kyle Pitts, the two best players on your offense. Nonetheless, Baker Mayfield throws an interception like Baker Mayfield always does. Baker Mayfield turns back into a pumpkin. Atlanta wins. And in this terrible division, is Desmond Ridder going to win this terrible division? Right now, it looks like it. We all thought the NFC South could not get as worse as it did last year. And I'm sorry, after the first couple of weeks, after everybody said the division was a little bit of a surprise, and I said, no, it wasn't. They're beating up on bad teams. The Saints look bad. Baker Mayfield started back into Baker Mayfield, and Atlanta, I don't know what the hell to make of Atlanta. So, and then obviously you have Carolina, who's just in the basement. They need to get more weapons for Bryce Young. Josh Allen turned into a wild pony, and in a classic Bill Belichick game, in a game we all thought Buffalo was going to go into New England after they barely beat the Giants. They were going to come out more focused, had high-powered offense. They were going to steamroll past New England, get by their division rival. Bill Belichick said, Mac Jones arguably played the best game of his life, and hit Mike Gesicki, and the Patriots win the game 29-25. I mean, it was one of those, again, classic Bill Belichick games where he got Josh Allen off his spot. And Josh Allen, we know how erratic Josh Allen is. We know how great Josh Allen is. He can throw for 6 touchdowns on any given day. He can throw for 6 interceptions in any given day. Josh Allen has a lot of Brett Favre in him. Buffalo did not run the ball as well as they did very early in September in this season. And Von Miller, who we all thought coming back would help that Buffalo pass rush, he barely played in this game. I think he got like 10 snaps, and almost all of them were in the fourth quarter. So we know Buffalo can beat up the bad teams, we think. But we know when they go up against defensive coaches and smart head coaches that Josh Allen gets rattled. And when you put pressure on Josh Allen, he's going to throw up a prayer into the sky. And we also know division games are weird. So again, this doesn't change my opinion on New England. I think they're still a bad team that doesn't have a lot of great receivers. They gave Bill Belichick a 3-year contract extension, at least it sounds like. Which, by the way, I do not fully believe. There's so many reports out there about Robert Kraft looking to move off Belichick that I'm sorry. Even if Bill did sign that contract extension, if New England were to lose out and go to 2-14, the Krafts have enough money. You can fire Bill Belichick. I think that they're going to win about 6 to 7 games. As always, they're going to be a good defensive team. They'll beat up on the bad quarterbacks. They'll lose to the good quarterbacks more often than not, and that's just sort of who New England is nowadays. I said be careful about this Commanders-Giants game because the Giants played well against the Bills, and division games are weird, and they play well against the Commanders. And I said Sam Howell had a good game against the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to have a bad game against the Giants. I was right here to not best bet the Commanders, even though I thought they might win by a field goal. The offense does not look great. They don't play well against the Giants. They do play well against the Eagles. I don't know the line on that, but I guarantee you that's going to be a tough fight this weekend when the Eagles go into D.C. Seattle took apart Arizona. They won by 10. Was in Arizona. Who knows what they're going to do with Kyler Murray? I would not play Kyler Murray. The report out there, though, is that Arizona wants to play him. I would not. I would look to trade Kyler Murray either the deadline or in the offseason, tank the rest of the year. Seattle did not need DK Metcalf. Could this have been Jackson Smith and Jigba's outcoming game? We'll see. Again, not a lot to say on this. Seattle should have taken care of Arizona. And then Pittsburgh, who was able to run the ball and get the luckiest spot in the QB sneak you'll ever see when Kenny Pickett's knee was clearly short, beat the Rams 24-17. Again, the Rams are basically a below average team with a good offense. Their defense is Aaron Donald with kids. They can't stop people in the second half because they don't have the depth. And once you figure out that Rams offense with Stafford and Kupp and Nacua, they don't have a ton of other pieces. Pittsburgh is a very good, well-coached team. They play well. They beat up on bad, inferior teams. This is sort of a Steeler-like game. They won 24-17. I told you Jordan Love was not the answer. I told you Denver has enough talent to beat Green Bay. I told you Green Bay was not very good. Denver wins 19-17. Whoop-de-doo. 2 bad teams that aren't going anywhere. And then this Chargers-Chiefs game was a shootout in the first half. Travis Kelce and Brittany Mahomes are doing, pirouettes essentially in the press box when Travis Kelce scores on a shovel pass. And then it was the second half example of Brandon Staley melting down, not adjusting. The Chargers getting shut out in the second half. Chiefs scoring a touchdown to win it 31-17. Chargers had multiple opportunities to get in the end zone, and for some reason, and I don't know if Justin Herbert just feels like he has too much pressure on himself because deep in the back of his mind, he knows that his defense is not very good and they're not going to be able to stop anybody. But the Chargers do not score a ton of points in the second half. They're a lot like the Rams this year with Matthew Stafford. Both LA teams seemingly play their best ball in the first half and then they melt down in the second half. So, again, is that a Kellen Moore issue? Is it a coordinator issue? Is it a Justin Herbert issue? We all think Justin Herbert is a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback in the NFL. But in order to do that, you got to win big games. And I can't tell you, a big game that Justin Herbert has won. Where Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, all they keep doing is singing Taylor Swift songs. They keep being the anti-hero, if you know what I mean. They keep on winning. They keep doing their things. Andy Reid, Brandon Staley, coaching mismatch. It's what I said. Chargers, Chiefs, they always play close games. In the end, it comes down to coaching. Mahomes, Kelsey, better than Herbert. Now, they don't have Mike Williams. I acknowledge that, though Austin Ekeler is back. Quinn Johnson, the first round pick out of TCU, looks like a complete bust. Now, Kansas City got McCall Hardman. Obviously, he's going to be a speedster, sort of eye candy type guy. They got back from the Jets after the Jets could not find a way to use him. Josh Palmer, though, becoming the Chargers' second best receiver, could be a little bit of an issue down the line. They need Quinn Johnson to step up. The question is, will he? When I previewed the Dolphins-Eagles game, which Philadelphia won 31-17, I said, you take away Tua Tagovailoa's first read, which for the most part, Philadelphia did that outside of 2 balls to Tyreek Hill. Caught one for a touchdown, should have caught the second one for a touchdown, but he dropped the ball. I said, you do that. The big guys of Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, the D tackles inside, to go along with Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham on the edge spots. You take away the running game, you force the Dolphins to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, outdoor weather with the defensive personnel the Eagles have. The Dolphins are not going to be able to move the ball. I was correct on that. The crazy thing about the Eagles this year is, again, everybody wants to talk about what's wrong with the offense. Jalen Hurts don't look the same. The offense does not look the same. It's the turnovers. And, Jalen Hurts, he's from 7, 8 interceptions already this year. I would say about 5 or 6 of them are not his fault. The one, on Sunday night, the fumble was his fault, but the interception was not, when he just went out, got the ball tipped, and then landed right in the Dolphins' hand. Took it back for a pick 6. So there's a lot of weird tip ball bounces that are not going the Eagles' way offensively. But they only punt the ball one time. They still scored 31 points. If you think about that, they could have easily beat the Dolphins, 40-10. Philadelphia proved that they had the best offensive and defensive line in the league once again on Sunday night. A.J. Brown has proven to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And obviously, as all the networks want to talk about here, when you have a quarterback that squats 600 pounds and you have the best offensive line, you can run the Philly shove, the touch push, whatever you want to call it. Dolphins fans are mad they can't stop it. The whole NFL is mad that they can't stop it. It's because they don't have a really strong offensive line. It's because they don't have a really strong quarterback. It's because they don't have a really strong tight end in Dallas Goedert that's pushing Jalen Hurts. It's really simple, folks. Listen, when things don't work, people that get mad about things because they know they can't stop it because people are smarter than you want to ban things. It's childish. The tush push should not be banned. I do love the addition as well of Kevin Byard. Now, I do think Miami's going to get better. And at this point, if Tua stays healthy down the line when they get Jalen Ramsey and some of their defensive players back, they probably are better than Buffalo. But the Kevin Byard addition for Philadelphia, with Avonte Maddox out, he can play nickel corner, he can play free safety, he can play strong safety. When Reed Blankenship gets back, that combination of Byard, Blankenship, Slay, Bradbury as your base defense in the secondary is very scary. Kevin Byard has never missed a game in his NFL career. He's very versatile. He gets a lot of interceptions. He's a very physical safety as well. He's a perfect fit for what Sean Desai and this Eagles defense wants to do. And this is the best pass rush Kevin Byard has ever played with. He's also an Eagles fan. I think it's a great fit. And listen, Kirk Cousins played the game of his life, and yet Minnesota still almost lost with their defense, led by Brian Flores. We saw this out of Flores' defenses when he was in command in Miami. Slow starts, better finishes. Is this Vikings defense starting to understand Flores' scheme? I thought Kevin O'Connell called a very conservative game on Monday night last night. You know, the kick and the field goal at the 1 yard line, punting after running the ball instead of kicking a field goal, you know, and trying to extend the lead to 9. And they do end up kicking the field goal, you know, at the end of the game and missing it. I thought it was a very conservative call. I thought, you know, as an offensive coach, a guy that goes forward a lot, Kevin O'Connell would want to go forward more and want to go in the game. He did not do that, and he got bailed out because Brock Purdy was not good. And we've seen now when Brock Purdy doesn't have his best left tackle, when he doesn't have Deebo Samuel, when he gets pressure on him, and when the pressure of winning the game is on Purdy, he is not good. I've said I think he's as good as Kirk Cousins. We saw Kirk Cousins last night when he's good on time without Justin Jefferson at certain points in the game, without, you know, Jordan Addison, their young rookie. Kirk was able to make big plays, and again, that might have been his best primetime performance of his career. Brock Purdy last night did not look as good, and I still think San Francisco has the ability to roll bad teams. I still think they're a very good football team. I don't think they're as deep as Philadelphia. Again, they have Nick Bosa. A lot of people think he may be the best defensive player in football. That's great. I think Philadelphia as a unit has the better unit. They may have George Kittle. I think Philadelphia's receiving weapons are better as a unit than what George Kittle can provide for San Francisco. They have Christian McCaffrey. That's great. It's the least most valuable position on the field at running back. The most valuable position is Jalen Hurts versus Brock Purdy. I think that's a big difference. And I think that the Philadelphia offensive line is also better than the San Francisco offensive line, which is why I would put Philadelphia over San Francisco. So again, 8-5 in the money line puts us at 69-37 on the year. 2 for 5 in best bets. We've been a little cold in best bets. Let's see if we can bounce back in week 8. We are now 21 for 35 on the year, a little bit below the pace that I would want to be at this point. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.